In March 1935, the Air Ministry issued a technical specification for a new single-seat fighter. Its armament was to consist of 6 or 8 machine guns with 300 rounds per barrel. The specification stipulated a retractable landing gear, an enclosed cockpit, and oxygen equipment. The aircraft was required to reach a speed of 445 kilometers per hour at an altitude of 4,500 meters, have a service ceiling of approximately 10 kilometers, and a flight endurance of 90 minutes. The Gloucester and Bristol companies won the competition, and the Air Ministry ordered prototypes from both. However, one of the oldest British aircraft manufacturers, Vickers Aircraft Limited, decided to enter the fray. On April 1, 1935, the company's management issued an order to begin development of a new fighter as a private venture. John Bewsher was appointed chief designer, as the firm's head designer, Rex K. Pearson, was occupied with the mass production of the Wellesley and Wellington aircraft. Bewsher was no stranger to aircraft design. In 1930, under Pearson's guidance, he had designed the Vickers Type 151 Jockey fighter. Given independence, Bewsher decided to use it as the basis for the new machine, which was designated the Type 279 Jockey II. The Type 279 Jockey II bore little resemblance to its predecessor. The fiber skinning of the rear fuselage was replaced with metal using flush riveting. The cockpit was enclosed, the landing gear was made retractable, and instead of 2 fuselage-mounted machine guns, it was decided to install 8 in the wings. The power plant was intended to be the Bristol Aquila AE3S engine with a NACA cowling and exhaust ring. The projected performance data of the new aircraft was high enough to interest the Air Ministry. Although the ministry did not intend to fund the development, moral support was guaranteed. On April 13, 1935, only 12 days after the firm's initial decision, a 1/8 scale model of the fighter was ordered, and 3 days later, the Bristol company confirmed its agreement to supply the engine with a cowling and exhaust ring. Design and construction proceeded at a rapid pace. The engine arrived in January 1936 and the propeller in March. In June, 14 months after design work began, the new fighter, named the Venom PVO-10, was ready for flight testing. Structurally, the aircraft was an all-metal monoplane with a monocoque fuselage and duralumin skinning fixed with flush rivets. All control surfaces were fabric-covered. The landing flaps could deflect to an angle of 90 degrees, a rarity for aircraft of that era. Retraction of the landing gear was achieved via a worm gear driven by an electric motor. This motor was powered by a battery, which, along with a generator, was also used for engine starting, gun heating, landing and identification lights, gun sight illumination, and flap operation. The landing gear struts, equipped with oleo-pneumatic shock absorbers, folded inward toward the fuselage. Access to the cockpit was through a hatch on the starboard side, and its extensive glazing provided the pilot with excellent visibility. The power plant consisted of the 9-cylinder air-cooled Aquila AE3S engine, which drove a 2.6-meter diameter 3-blade de Havilland and Hamilton propeller through a reduction gear with a 0.5 ratio. On June 17, 1936, test pilot Mutt Summers took the Venom onto the runway at Brooklands. He first performed several taxi runs to check the landing gear and braking system. As there were no serious issues, Summers took the new fighter into the air. The flight proceeded normally, though the pilot noted insufficient thrust from the power plant. After consulting with representatives from Vickers and Hamilton, it was decided that the loss of thrust was due to an incorrect propeller pitch. Once the pitch was reduced, the aircraft flew again. Summers noted that the aircraft's performance had significantly improved. Furthermore, he highlighted the aircraft's good maneuverability and the high efficiency of the landing flaps. By June 27th, the Venom was demonstrated at the annual RAF display at Hendon, where it was parked in the new aircraft section, alongside the Spitfire and the Hurricane. After the exhibition, the aircraft returned to the factory to continue flight trials.
The primary problem was the unrefined engine, which suffered from severe overheating and an extremely short service life, approximately 5 hours. Despite these difficulties, the Air Ministry maintained a degree of interest in the fighter, prompting the firm to continue its work. Several changes were made to the design, primarily concerning the cooling and fuel systems and the engine group. Additionally, the flaps were modified to allow a fixed intermediate position, 40-degree deflection, for use during takeoff. The possibility of installing a different engine was considered, but no serious steps were taken in that direction. Flight testing continued with varying success until early 1939, whereafter the firm, apparently losing all hope, handed the prototype to the RAF. The military intended to use it for landing flap experiments, but no records of this work, nor of the fate of the aircraft itself, have survived. Thus concluded the history of the Venom, a promising machine that joined the long list of aircraft whose potential was never fully realized.